In today's episode, I should go to the principal if I don't like your late policy? Sure thing. You want to take my security deposit? Perhaps you should read your own contract. My boyfriend told me to finish my breakfast, and so I did. So let's get started. I should go to the principal if I don't like your late policy? Sure thing. All of the high school stories reminded me of one from back in the day. Over a decade ago, I was in my half-credit, required civics course in high school. It went over the essentials of how my country's and province's government works, what the various ministers' roles were, and other things like that. The teacher of this class was a woman who started the semester very aggressive with all of the students. Our first class was entirely her lecturing about the rules of her classroom. Namely, once the bell rings, the class starts and she locks the door. If you're late, you're not going to her class that day. If you miss class without a sick note, she won't help you catch up on what you missed, including not giving handouts or what the text readings were for the day. She is an adult and we were teenagers, so we will respect her. If we don't like it, we can go to the principal. She enforced all of these to the letter. Even more so if you had the misfortune of having had a sibling go through her class before that she did not like, just as I did. But I made sure to try and stay on her, if not good, at least non-antagonistic side. I lived in the country outside of the town where the school was, and my bus was notorious for only letting you get to your morning class on time by the skin of your teeth, and you could forget being on time if you had to go to your locker for books or drop off winter gear. So I drove to school every morning in a truck that was older than I, ran on hope and desperation, and had a hole where the radio used to be a decade ago that would occasionally spark at you if the road was too bumpy. This way I was always not only on time for her class, but early. I sat in the front, paid as much attention as I could, wrote notes, answered questions, did great on her quizzes. I was determined in my teenage mind that I could change her opinion on me, and show that I wasn't my brother. But none of that mattered. I was knocked points off of quizzes because of my poor handwriting. I would later as an adult find out I have dysgraphia. I would only be selected to answer a question if mine was the only hand, and even then if I was wrong I'd be berated instead of corrected. She did not like me, and over the course of that half semester made it very clear that she would only ever view me with malevolence, and if I was lucky I'd get to the point of ambivalence. Come the end of the course, we just had to write an in-class written exam. Lo and behold, this was also the day that my hope and desperation gave out. My truck broke down, and the bus passed while I was trying the normal fixes to get it running again. I was lucky that my brother had some of his business to take care of in town that morning, so he gave me a ride in. But I still got to class a couple minutes after the bell. So I knocked. In my pure and innocent mind I thought that my perfect attendance, and obvious willingness to learn the material of the class would be worth something. To my surprise it was. She actually opened the door, a first of the semester, and told me that I was late and obviously didn't have any respect for her or the rest of my class to interrupt their exam like this. I didn't like that, so I followed her word and went to the principal about it. Turns out, most people did not follow that last rule of hers, and instead would take the period as free, and when they got called into the office the next day for skipping class, would be given a free pass because of the secretary's general opinion of this particular teacher. But I was one of the first to actually come and complain about being locked out. Even better, I was coming to complain that she was refusing to allow me to write my final exam for the class. The office secretary told me to just wait there for a minute, and went to talk to the principal. She came back with a look of schadenfreude joy on her face, and with the largest Cheshire smile picked up her phone and dialed to the PA in the teacher's room. Over the phone she said, quite loud enough for the whole office to hear, "Ms. Redacted, Mr. Principal name is asking that you not force a student to fail, and allow Mr. My last name in to write his exam." With that I marched back to class, at this point only having about half the period left to write the exam. She let me into the room with a glare that would make a more godly man think he was seeing the face of demonic possession. Not only had I subverted her rules, but I had also gotten her called out about it on loudspeaker in front of the whole class, and made her lose face in front of those teenagers she demanded so much respect from. I wrote and finished the exam, handing it in with little time to spare at the end of the period, and ended up passing the class with what I think was a much poorer grade than I deserved. I followed up with my cousin who took her class a few years later, and apparently her policy of locking students out of class for being late was gone by the time she took the class. I don't know if it was because of me, but I like to think it was. You want to take my security deposit? Perhaps you should read your own contract. A few years ago, I was looking for a place to live, and I came across an interesting advertisement looking for property guardians. The idea behind property guardians is that disused buildings are far more secure if they are occupied, so owners of empty properties will allow people to live there temporarily for incredibly cheap price. So the guardian gets to live in a, usually quite interesting, disused building incredibly cheaply. The owner makes a small additional bit of income, and has someone keeping their eye on the place. This arrangement is usually done through a third-party guardian company, who act as the intermediary. This particular advert was for a pub that had recently closed. My interest piqued, so I went along to a viewing. The space was huge, and they were only asking for a few £100, all bills included, so I went for it, along with a group of other people. We all picked our rooms. I got the bar area, a huge room with en-suite ladies and gents toilets, a big fireplace and cozy pub decor. We also had full use of the sizable pub kitchen, beer cellar, dish washing room, double garage, car park and a massive garden with a barbecue area. For the most part, it was a great gig. I got to live in a pub, have all the space I wanted, and as the building was due to be destroyed, we could pretty much do what we liked with the internals. I put up curtains and temporary walls, and made it my cozy home for the next couple of years. Other guardians moved in and out over the months, but myself and a couple of others were there for the long term. Aside from the odd dodgy person coming and going, I had 2 of my tires slashed at one point, but that's another story. All was pretty cushy. The owner of the guardian company, and thus the person I paid my rent to, was a large red-faced man who was quite full of himself. He tended to be quite bossy and sometimes aggressive, but I stayed out of his way. As long as I paid my rent and didn't cause him trouble, he left me alone. All until the end of the tenancy. I had moved out, returned my keys, and I was awaiting the return of my security deposit. At some point, a car had been dumped on the property. I hadn't noticed, because one of the previous guardians, who I will call Rob, had pushed it round to the back of the property and had been working on it. I just assumed it was his car. The first of the emails from the guardian company read: "The Volvo dumped in the car park was not reported to us, and must be removed from the site. Rob has declined to take responsibility of the vehicle, and has alleged it was reported to the police, and yet none of you have reported to us on such a serious issue. I would suggest that it be placed on the public highway, and then the police will deal with whomever owns the vehicle." Wait. Did you just incite us to commit fly tipping? I emailed back and said the car wasn't my responsibility, and thus I won't be moving it. Things went back and forth like this for a while, with the owner insisting that we were all responsible. Emphasis here means it's important later. Stop arguing, as I don't care, and if it's not gone then you will all be accountable to the issue. Rob was contacted and has said it's not his, and now the burden falls on all of you that knew about the car and failed to report it. At this point, I mentioned small claims court as an idle threat to see what would happen. You have failed to report an incident that is something that is detrimental to the property. You are in breach of the license for failing to do so. Happy to see you in court and explaining that you were put into the building to act as security by occupation, and while there you failed to report a dumped car. Right. It's on. I pulled out the contract and went back over it with a fine-tooth comb. At this point, another email came through. "Dear all, please be aware that you are all under license at the property and not tenants, and had no tenancy rights as is clearly stated in the license that you all agreed to and signed. Under the license you act as security for the property, and were responsible for reporting any incidents and also were responsible for keeping the property safe, secure, and as stated any items left will be charged for removal. The items left were dumped outside and certainly were not there throughout your time on site, and must have been placed there by one or more of you. This was accompanied by photographs of even more stuff that other guardians had left in the property, furniture, etc. But I wasn't going to be responsible for any of their stuff. This guy thought he could bully us out of our money, because we didn't have a legal tenancy, and were therefore not covered by UK laws protecting tenants. I wasn't going down without a fight. We may not be covered by tenants' rights, so everything would fall back to basic contract law. I found the interesting parts of the occupation license agreement that I had with the Guardian company. Damage security payment means the amount payable by the Guardian to cover the cost of any damages caused by the Guardian, but not anybody else. And since this contract is between myself and the Guardian company with no jointly and severally liable clause, I can't be held responsible for anyone else's mess. Great. But there's more. This one is interesting. 3.1 The Guardian company provides services to property owners to, among other benefits, secure premises against trespassers and protect such premises from damage. The Guardian company has agreed to provide such services to the owner in respect of the property. So we don't provide security, that's the responsibility of the Guardian company, which we're not a part of. But wait, there's more. The Guardian will October 1st 10 not remove anything from the property, other than things that he brought there. Boom. Gotcha. I fired back an email. Please see section 3.1 of the license agreement signed by myself and the Guardian company owner. It stipulates that you, the Guardian company, provide security. Not us, the Guardians. Please also see section October 1st 10. Given that I did not bring either the car or the furniture onto the property, it would in fact be a breach of your own license agreement for me to remove it. In this case, I will be complying with your contract and thus will not remove the items that I did not bring onto the property. Please return my security deposit within 3 working days, or I will be forced to take legal action. Their response. At this point we are happy to see you in court and please do not contact us unless via your solicitor, as we will be charging for our time to deal with such matters. If you can demonstrate who is responsible for leaving the items for us to deal with, we will look at this. But as stated previously, these items were not there previously and have dumped them outside. All of you failed to report the car. Sounds like he was shaken up a little and probably hoped I was bluffing. Unfortunately for him, I wasn't. I filed the court papers after 3 working days. He caved as soon as he received the court papers and realized that I wasn't bluffing. He repaid our deposits, along with my court fees, the very next day. Victory. My boyfriend told me to finish my breakfast, and so I did. I'm sure other people have submitted stories of this type, but I choose to maliciously comply with the rules of the sub that state original content means happen to you rather than unique. D. This story is also like 7 years old, so my memory's a bit foggy. I dated my first boyfriend when we were in high school, me 15 and him 16. We were long distance and neither of us could drive initially, so that meant every time I came to visit him, or he came to visit me, one of our parents would have to tag along, and we'd make a day of it. Maybe a little awkward, but I really liked his mom, so no biggie. On one day, he came to my city, and we decided to hit up a breakfast joint I liked, and then go see a movie. Now this was one of those breakfast joints, you know the type. They serve pancakes 1.5 feet in diameter. They obviously take up an entire skillet to make. The max is a stack of 3, and you will have leftovers. These things are huge. I got 2 chocolate chip pancakes, because I wanted to have some left for later. They arrive, and I'm about to dig in when my boyfriend looks me in the eye and goes, "No way you can finish those pancakes." Finishing those pancakes was never my plan, but I'm very stubborn, and I didn't like his tone, so I told him I could if I wanted to. "Okay," he said, "then do it." He clearly didn't think I could swing it, but I have always been a prideful creature, and I wasn't about to back down from a challenge. So I started eating. And I kept eating. I got full. I kept eating. I got extremely full. And I kept eating. I ate until I got so full I couldn't take another bite without risking getting sick. But there were still about 2/3 RDS of those pancakes left. And my boyfriend was looking a little too smug for my liking. So I sat at the table and allowed myself to digest. This was not a quick process, but he never gave me a time limit, so I decided to give my stomach plenty of time to relax. And when I was good and ready, which was about the time my boyfriend and his mom were finishing their meals, I resumed my toil. At the 1 hour mark, his mom begged us to give up so she wouldn't have to sit there any longer, but neither of us were willing to admit defeat. It was now a matter of pride. I continued eating my pancakes. I had to get up and go to the bathroom a few times to excrete any non-pancakes still hogging space in my digestive tract. I almost got sick a couple times. But the wait was worth it. For after at least 2 hours of struggle and boredom, I had utterly demolished those pancakes, officially proving my boyfriend incorrect in his assessment of how many carbohydrates I could realistically pack away. A bit of a mundane story, I know, but it's a memory I will always cherish. How I managed to do all that and still eat a bag of gummy bears at the movie theater afterwards is beyond me. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.